Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Dr. Veena, a full-time NHS GP working in London, and today I'm going to talk you through building a portfolio career as a general practitioner. In this video, we're going to cover what is a portfolio career. I'll take you through my own journey of what I did and how I work now, the different roles that you can work as a GP, and finally, practical steps of how to go about building a portfolio career if that's something you're interested in. A portfolio GP is a GP who works in multiple different roles in their work week. This means that 2 weeks may look different, every month may look different, or they may have built a strategy or structure, whereas each quarter may look different. And this is the beauty of it, where you get autonomy, you have freedom, and you have choice of how you want to craft and engineer the career of your dreams. Different things drive different people. So the first step to figure how to begin and how to start navigating a career that you want to create, if you decide now, I want to become a portfolio GP, I don't want to just work in the community, it's about taking a step back and asking yourself some serious questions. Some of these questions might be, what does your ideal work week look like? How much do you want to work? Do you want your passions to be incorporated within your work? And what really drives you? So if you're working in a setting where finances are important to you and you need that stability of income and you can't just be ad hoc, you're going to have to do a set number of hours in a hospital or in a community setting. If you are okay with having a bit of flexibility and spontaneity, but need that excitement to also keep you stimulated, you might be okay with taking on a role that is not always consistent, but it does provide work now and again. These are things you really want to ask yourself. Next, we're going to talk about the different kind of jobs you can do as a general practitioner in the UK. Firstly, I know there's a lot of negative talk around general practice. I've, myself witnessed this as a junior doctor in hospital, where seniors and consultants would say things to me like, oh, we're losing you to GP land, or you're picking the easy option, or, is it because you want a family? I mean, maybe start with open questions of why are you doing this, or why are you choosing to do this? Maybe I'm passionate about being a generalist. Maybe I want continuity of care. Maybe I want some autonomy over my career. I don't know. I think I was trying to keep a very positive outlook about this to start with, but over the years, it does take its toll on you, and it does kind of really test your patience when people constantly talk down and negate your career. And it's funny because a few years later, you see the same people switching their specialty and applying for GP, and you think, well, how come you're doing this now? Are you now doing this because, you want to have a family life balance or whatever they said? So if you're one of those people and are hearing all this negative talk, I just want to encourage you, don't let them get to you. If general practice is something you're considering, really go and explore by doing work experience or speaking to people who are working in that field to understand if that's what you want. Don't let people's opinions kind of dictate what you choose to do with your life. That's my pointers to you. General practice is an incredible career. You have the privilege of seeing people at their most vulnerable. You have the privilege of seeing people and their families over and over, building that relationship where they tell you some of the most personal, deepest, darkest things, and you get to see them from poor health to good health. I had someone once tell me, you may not feel like, oh, I'm changing the world, but you're changing that one person's world. You really are. And I genuinely believe it's a privilege to be in this position where you can treat patients that way. So I think it's a great career. As a GP in the UK, there are lots of different roles you can take. In a clinical setting, you could work as a locum GP or a sessional GP. You could become a salaried GP and then work up to being a partner at a practice. You could work within policy. You could work within education by doing further training or education to be qualified to train students or actually teach at universities and schools. You could take alternative roles like work in a prison. You could work within the tech industry with health tech. That could be femtech, medical devices, even during research where they need something or someone as a CMO, which is a chief medical officer, either overseeing a lot of the medical processes or advising and guiding around what is the right thing to do. So you could be an advisor to a lot of health tech companies. You could work within pharmaceuticals, where this could be within pharmacies where you have a remote or hybrid role where you're signing off prescriptions or advising them about certain medications and the way things should be done within that company or that role. But this again really differs and varies role to role. You could be a forensic medical examiner, and work in that capacity. You could choose to do some media work. You could choose to do journalism, medical journalism, be that for magazines or newspapers. And if you're looking to become a GPSI, which is a GP with a special interest, you could do a further diploma in different topics. It could be children's health, mental health, women's health, dermatology. And once you've completed the diploma, you could then provide those services towards your CCG or your practice. And you could be the provider of that service for, say, a certain area, a certain CCG, or a certain borough. So that's also a way in which you can progress your career. We talked a lot about NHS work. You can also explore a lot of careers in the private sector. This specifically could be working with banks, working with private healthcare providers where they need to do routine general health checks, or being one of the on-call doctors that the private teams need for people who pay monthly memberships or may get extra health insurance from their employer. I also know a lot of people who've completely switched careers and have decided they might just do general practice or clinical work on the weekends and have switched into management consulting or health consulting. So if that's something you're interested in, that's also a possibility. I hope that you can see already that the options and opportunities are limitless and endless. It really is about what you want to get out of your career and how you want to really manage and use your time. After you've answered some of these questions, you can then take a step back and think, what are the next steps to then reach that goal? For instance, if you decide a GPSI is what you want to do, it might be worth looking into all the universities that provide this diploma. Is it full-time, part-time? Could you get any bursaries? That's how you'd kind of navigate that. If you're looking to explore some health tech opportunities, it would be worth going to some networking events where you can meet some health tech founders or companies who are recruiting doctors in that area. Or you could reach out to them just via LinkedIn, dropping a message and saying what you're interested in and what your skill set is, what your clinical experience is, and could you just come and have a chat? You know, a lot of these conversations may not necessarily lead to a job straight away, but it's going to be that first opening kind of point where you take the dialogue a bit further, you learn something more, and you make a new contact. What really helps me is also remembering this decision is reversible. You are not tied to any role. I mean, of course you are if you sign a contract, but even then, if you decide tomorrow that this wasn't for you and you want to go back to your full-time clinical role, that's absolutely possible. So that again should give you confidence that you can explore different avenues around art, media, education, policy, and really explore and see, can you see a career in any of those fields, or can you see it adding more value to your clinical career? Most of these things can be reversed and you can go back to your, safety net of just clinical work, or you might find out that actually you've now got the bug and you want to explore a lot of other things. It's kind of what happened to me. And it's honestly been such an incredible journey to even see what's possible in the bigger world as a clinical doctor. This is one of the most common questions I get asked all the time of how I navigated my career and how I went about making the choices I did. So I'm going to take you through it. I graduated medical school in 2015 and I went straight through training without a break, without a gap. I was in full-time training. So I did my F1 and F2 years. These are your foundation years where you're in different rotations in different specialties. That was in Leicester and Northampton. That's where I did that. And straight after I applied for GP specialty training in London and I got my first choice place. And I did that over the next 3 years. So it was 5 years of consecutive training that I did. In the 3 years of GP training, 2 years were in hospital. So each of those 2 years I had 6-month rotations in different specialties. And the final year is your registrar year, where I was a registrar GP at a practice, where you're training, you have a supervisor. And in those junior years, you have 2 big exams and your portfolio to kind of keep on top of. The exams were the AKT and the CSA, and your portfolio, is full of reflectives and learning points and other things that you have to kind of fulfill to meet the criteria that you're fully qualified. I completed all of this training in 2020. I say it like that because it was the first cohort that came out after COVID or during COVID. And it was a very challenging and character building time to become qualified as a GP, to tell you the truth. So I qualified in October 2020. And from there, I started working. My first thoughts were, I didn't just want to be a clinical GP. I always knew I wanted to do other things, as I always had done throughout medical school and my junior doctor years as a dancer. But it was more about figuring out exactly how to go about this. So I tried out a few clinics in community. I did out of hours and urgent care work. I spoke to a lot of people who were many steps ahead of me in their career, be that GP partners, people who worked in policy, practice managers, doctors who had switched from medicine completely into different careers, to get a taster of what my life would look like if I followed any of those paths, and also to understand, can I see myself doing what they're doing? That was my train of thought behind talking to all these different people for a bit of advice and career guidance. So over the next year, I was doing sessional work. So as a GP, when you work, each clinic is called a session. I was doing different sessions across London, so East London, West London. I went to Kent for some sessions as well, did urgent care and out of hours work. I ran baby clinics. I just wanted to build a lot of confidence in my clinical skills. I wanted to gain experience, and I wanted to get a breadth of work under my wing to understand exactly where do I see my career going and how can I contribute to this incredible specialty. Towards the end of 2021, I was approached for some work as a doctor in the media, and that was specifically around radio, print, and then some TV roles. I was absolutely nervous and petrified about this to start with, but I was also really excited. It was something I'd never done before. It was something I was very intrigued about. It was something I wanted to get better at, and that's where I also chose to put some of my energy over the next 2 years. Now coming to 2024, I can confidently say I'm a portfolio GP, and my work week is varied every single week. I do a mix of clinical work in the community, urgent care work, and media work, which involves TV, radio, and print. I also run my charity, which is a diabetes-focused charity called Souther. I have a podcast, and I train and teach dance in my spare time. So all of that doesn't obviously fall under the bracket of being a portfolio GP, but because a lot of it is also around health, medicine, and work, it does fall under it. I'm going to leave some links below that might help you get started about thinking, networking, and really finding out what else is out there and what's possible for doctors, specifically GPs. Feel free to leave a comment below if you have any specific questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. I hope this video helped you in navigating and even starting your thought process about what's possible in a career as GP. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video.